Welcome back to Maritime Morning. Metro Transit workers are filing a grievance. It's over a municipal grant to a transportation service in the Musquedobbit Valley. HRM wants to provide a little cash to the Eastern Shore, but the folks at the union, that is Local 508 of the Amalgamated Transit Union, you remember we spoke about them during the transit strike at some length. They say if HRM wants to provide money to do that, then they can send unionized drivers to go do that job. The thinking behind this is you have the RCMP policing in Musquedobbit Harbour. They didn't hire private cops. And Ken Wilson, the president of the union, says, what's next? Mickey Mouse Fire Department? Some rather harsh words. Well, joining us to talk about this morning is Lucy Quigley. She's been on the program here before. She's the general manager of MusGo Rider. It's the little operation that's underway out there that is looking for a little cash just to prop it up, to provide a service for people in that community. She joins us on the phone. Hi, Lucy.
Hi. Thank you for having me this morning.
Nice to have you on. What do you think of these comments by Ken Wilson of the Amalgamated Transit Union? Do you think that they're... I guess, what do you think of them?
I'm taken aback. We are a nonprofit cooperative. We're actually based down of Musquedobbit Harbour, and we're a transportation provider. We're not a transit company. We do not have a fixed route, and we provide a door-to-door pre-booked service. And I've been discussing this business model with Metro Transit for several months now. They've been aware of this request. In fact, they were the ones that drafted the policy guidelines for the grant. And within 2 hours of the grants committee approving those policies, the grievance was on the desk of Metro Transit.
Wilson says that it's not a matter of sending buses down there. He said that if HRM wants to do this, then they can send vans. You know, they can use their own vans and go down there and basically provide that service. Does that sound to you like it's an option? I mean, would that be something that would be desirable in your community?
Metro Transit stated that they are not going to be servicing rural areas. They've drawn a very clear line in the sand, and they've said that they're going to focus on urban and suburban transit, and that they are going to support community-led operations such as MusGo Rider. So my question to Metro Transit is, why didn't they address these concerns with the union several months ago?
So I guess, you know, here we have a situation where you can probably understand, I think, where Ken Wilson is coming from, but presumably it must sound like a little bit of an attack on your operation, doesn't it?
It is an attack. We have one 6-person passenger van covering the area of Lake Charlotte to Lake Echo, Chesapeake, Lawrencetown, Seaforth. It's one van. It's one van. This isn't a massive operation. We're a nonprofit, and Metro Transit and the union had their chance to solve this problem years ago, and they didn't. And our community decided to help themselves, and that's what I did, is I brought this project forward. I've seen it grow to where it is, and to have the union step in at this point and try and block funding, it's ridiculous. How
much are you looking for, Lucy?
My initial request was for $10,000, and that was to help supplement the 2012-2013 fiscal year. However, with all the delays, it's now looking like it would come in the 2013-2014 fiscal year. And I'd indicated to council that they needed to make rural transportation a priority so that it had ongoing funding similar to what the province offers.
When I was listening to the talk around election time, Mayor Mike Savage held you up, I believe, as an example of, you know, innovative cooperative ideas in terms of transportation. So do you feel that you have the mayor and council on your side on this one?
I definitely have Mayor Savage and Councillor Hensby on this support, as well as other councillors. And it just feels like the union is holding HRM and rural residents hostage.
When are you going to know about this? When do you expect to hear what the result of the decision is going to be?
Well, if I understood correctly, I've not received any direct information on the grievance and how it's handled. I've seen reference that it might take 18 months to resolve.
Does that mean that any funding to you would be pushed back until the grievance is resolved?
I don't know. From what I understand, this is going forward to council in about 2 weeks' time. And the motions surrounding giving us the $10,000 request, the criteria has pretty much been met. So I can't see why we wouldn't initially get that $10,000. Council has already committed that. What it might do is it would definitely derail any funding for the 2013-2014 year and future funding. They've basically cut our legs off.
What's the response been in the community to this?
They're furious. They're furious. They've been asking for transportation out in this area for years, and they never got it. We do have a very small, what's called a community transit bus that operates 5 or 6 times a day, but it doesn't come close to meeting the needs of the community. They had their chance, and they didn't meet that request. And we've solved the problem.
So you kind of feel like the union here is trying to kick the legs out from underneath you. Definitely, and I don't understand why. We're not interfering with their service. In fact, we're complementing it. We can bring people to the ferry terminal that have no way of getting there. We can bring people to the New Bridge terminal that have no way of getting there. And when the new Metro X facility is finally brought into Porters Lake, we will bring people to that service. Their models for rural communities are based on park and ride. If you don't have a car, the bus is no good. So if we can provide that connection, we're in fact going to increase their ridership. Lucy, interesting dynamic that's emerging here. One would hope that this is not going to delay you for a year and a half, but as these union grievances go, it may be unavoidable, but we will follow it and see how this rolls out, and we always appreciate you taking the time to talk to us about this.
Thank you, and rest assured that regardless of what the union does, I will find the funding somewhere to ensure that the residents of the Eastern Shore have transportation. I'm not going to let the union bully me or intimidate me from continuing to provide this service.
Lucy, thanks very much. I appreciate your time.
Thank you very much. Have a great day. That
is Lucy Quigley. She manages MusGo, joining us on the phone from Muscat Abbott Harbour this morning. This is it's a fairly clear position that the Amalgamated Transit Union has taken on this, and that is that they do not want to see HRM actually just providing funding for a private sector operator who's providing transportation within the municipality, presumably because they feel that that would set a bad precedent, and it may look down the road to perhaps more private sector operations actually taking over some of those roles. How do you feel about the response to from Metro Transit to this? Do you think that it is reasonable, or do you think that it's unfair? 405-6000 or 1-877-801-8255 is our number here. That's 405-6000 or 1-877-801-8255. David Hensby, who's the councillor for the area, joins us on the phone this morning. Thanks, David, for taking the time to call in today.
No trouble at all, sir.
What's the scoop here? If Metro Transit files this grievance, does that mean that Lucy's going to be hanging around for a year and a half before she gets before she's going to be able to resolve her funding issue with HRM?
I certainly hope not. They'll have to figure out if it's a violation of collective agreement or not. Is it a transit service or a shuttle service? We have a TDM program that funds carpools and shuttle services. This is basically what this rural mobility is all about, providing a quasi-transit service, door-to-door service, something that transit does not provide, except for maybe its excessive bus service. But, this is something we need to get rolling. Metro Transit has, I guess you could say, surrendered to providing rural transportation. If you look at the upcoming community design advisory committee report saying it's going to focus on the urban cores only. So I think what's that leave to the rural communities? We got to fend for ourselves and look for other community-based options. The only thing I was worried about is that they may want to try to use this new NDP legislation to try to unionize the drivers that we get to finally hired on.
You mean first contract arbitration? Yeah. Let me ask you this: if HRM does fund this, does it open the door for further private sector involvement in transit provision within the municipality? I mean, are you setting some sort of a precedent here? Is that what Ken Wilson's worried about?
What do you call it, private sector, or is it community cooperatives? How, or nonprofit organization? It all depends how it's an alternative service delivery, as I see it. We got Green Rider out there already providing shuttle services from the Valley and Yarmouth into Halifax. If they want to provide more of a nature, so we're focusing our service delivery to HRM's territory only. So those purveyors outside our municipal boundaries, I don't think they would qualify. But those within inside our boundaries, be it a community cooperative, be it a not-for-profit organization, I don't know if a private purveyor would qualify. It's a unique question. I would certainly have to ponder it. But if it's services an area that Metro Transit currently isn't, why not?
So what do you have to do? Put this through legal to determine whether or not the collective agreement is being contravened, and then a decision will come out of that?
I would hope that the $10,000 from MusGo Rider was already been pre-committed by council back in last October, as long as the program is in place. And we have this program being suggested and being referred to onward by the grants committee to council. I would hope that would be enough to satisfy the council's initial request. And now to go on for future funding, that may be an arbitration issue. I don't know.
Thank you, David. Appreciate your time as always.
No trouble at all, sir.
David Hensby is the municipal councillor for the area out in Eastern Shore and Preston and that area. How do you feel about the union's reaction to this? Do you think that it's reasonable that they would be able to say, we don't want to see some sort of private encroachment or alternative service delivery encroachment on transit? The thinking behind it saying, look, you have the RCMP in Musquodoboit Harbour. You don't have private security out there, so why would you be providing funding for something like MusGo? 405-6000 or 1-877-801-8255. If you live in Musquodoboit Harbour, I'd love to hear your take on this as well this morning. Bob, what's your take on what you're hearing from the transit union?
I'm thinking we could only hope to have more private stuff going in there. I mean, when you're talking about the RCMP, private security is more expensive. How many transit bus drivers do you get for $10K, right? And I mean, in terms of that, they're kind of a big-fisted union. We're not talking about pilots or doctors here. We're talking about a special license requirement to drive, a vehicle with people in it. So if the private sector is ready to give us better service, then the government, with my money, should be hiring the best service provider, not letting the union beat them around.
Yeah, I think it's the people in the area who should be deciding how this works, not the union.
Well, they're paying for it, right?
Precisely. It's the people who are paying the bill that should be actually determining what happens here. Thank you very much, Bob. Appreciate the call this morning. 405-6000 or 1-877-801-8255. Ken Wilson, the president of the Amalgamated Transit Union here in Halifax, saying that that they shouldn't be providing any kind of financial support for MusGo, that small operation in Musquodoboit Harbour that's providing transportation for people in that community. I'd like to hear your thoughts on it. If you're living in Musquodoboit Harbour, does this feel like kind of an attack on you, or does it feel like you're being big-footed by the transit union? Or if, on the other hand, I mean, even if you're in the union, do you feel that this is the fine edge of the wedge, if you will, that if they do decide to do this, that it opens up the door for other transportation providers to come in and essentially take away work from Metro Transit? 405-6000, 877-801-8255 is our number. I'd like to hear your opinion. This is Maritime Morning. Welcome back to Maritime Morning. A little while back, Council approved in principle a $10,000 grant for a little company called MusGo Rider Co-op. And that was back in October. They just said file some business plans and financial statements and see if we can get this to you. And they have to meet some certain guidelines. But here's the key to this whole thing, I think. That Council asked for these guidelines in the hope that there would be other providers, perhaps in other communities, that could use the same model that they're using for MusGo. And this is one of the things that Mike Savage said during the election. He said, this sounds to me like, a good model, an innovative way to provide a service that isn't based simply around Metro Transit. I don't think anybody in the city is going to say that Metro Transit is a model for transit systems in the world. I mean, it's fine. They try hard. They've got a new little campaign saying that you should do it on the bus or whatever. But a lot of people are very dissatisfied with the service provision in this community. So these people are saying, look, we're going to try and link into it at least a little bit, provide some other alternatives for people. And here we have the ATU stepping in and saying, no. They say provincial money's fine, municipal money is a no-go on their side because that should be unionized bus drivers doing that stuff. They say they have the drivers that can do that. 405-6000 or 1-877-801-8255. Tim, what do you think of this emerging conflict?
Hey, Jody. I guess my first question would be, what percentage of the money that it's going to take to run this is the $10,000? Is that the lion's share? And if it is a big component of it, then it should just go to public tender. Like they should put out to tell the people what they want of the service and let people bid on it. And if the Metro Transit can't compete, or if they can compete, let them do it.
Well, I don't think Metro Transit is even going to get into this. And as Lucy said, they've had their chance. They did have an opportunity to provide service out there, and they just said no, they're not going to do it. So the folks in Musquodoboit Harbor said, okay, well, then let's see what we can come up with that's going to provide some solutions for people out here. And here they have it, and now that you've got the transit union sticking up a roadblock.
Okay, instead of saying Metro Transit, say the bus union then.
Well, the bus union.
Yeah, let them deal with it. Like if Metro Transit said they can't do it feasibly, then the union is the one who's being all gung-ho about it. Let them come up with a solution. And if they can, they can. If they can't, step aside, let somebody else do it.
I am totally on that side with you. Thanks very much. I appreciate your comment, Tim. 405-6000 or 1-877-801-8255. It seems a little rich for them to be coming in at this stage of the game and saying, no, we should be using transit drivers out there to do this stuff. I mean, really. They say full salary drivers could drive the vans. This is Ken Wilson saying this. In some cases, Metro Transit employees with disabilities that disqualify them from driving buses could be put to work in smaller vehicles. He said it in the paper, it's not my job to manage Metro Transit, but as far as I'm concerned, there's a million different possibilities that you can come up with, ways to get the amalgamated transit union with the proper equipment, proper training to go down there and pick up the people in Musquodoboit Harbor, Cow Bay, and Lucasville. And he went on to say, look, is the municipality going to fund taxi drivers? Because that's what he says the MusGo Rider Co-op sounds like to him. Lucy Quigley was on. She said that's not what it's all about. It's a 6-person passenger van. There's a full-time driver and a relief driver. And they tried to set up an innovative service. You have to book it 24 hours in advance, but it gives a transportation option for people down there that don't have it right now. And if the Metro Transit Union gets its way, this is the Amalgamated Transit Union, it's not Metro Transit, it's the union that works for them, then, they're looking at an 18-month delay because of this grievance that's been filed. And it doesn't seem fair that when somebody is trying to get this thing off the ground to try to get it running, that the transit union, for obvious, self-interest purposes, is sticking a spoke in their wheels. I mean, seriously? They've had the opportunity. If they said if there's a million different possibilities, as Ken Wilson indicates, then why aren't these possibilities being floated? Is because in the union you can't go and talk to somebody in management and say, look, we've got some ideas about being able to provide a service. Is Metro Transit, that rigid about the way that they actually operate their business that they can't come up with an idea? And then they haven't, and they've had the opportunity. And certainly the employees over there have to understand that if you're not going to provide a service, that somebody else can. And if they're innovative and they're doing it and they're not, and certainly $10,000 is not, sucking the public funds dry. $10,000 is a pretty small price to pay to, provide that kind of a service down there. And you're basically leveraging, this little co-op down there to get something going on. Then just get out of the way. Lead, follow, or get out of the way. And in this circumstance, in terms of the Amalgamated Transit Union, they should just get out of the way. I guess maybe they're doing this because they see this as a possibility of it being expanded in other areas and somehow infringing on their territory. Maybe it's something they just have to do on principle. But you know what? It actually has an impact on other people's ability to make money and other people's ability to get around. So while you're operating with your great union principles here, maybe the higher cause of actually helping people might be the one that you stand on. We'll take a break, and the newscast is coming up in just a couple of minutes.